Welcome, adventurers and adrenaline lovers. Today, we're going on a fascinating journey together. But be prepared. This won't be a relaxing vacation on the beach where you order a drink with a straw and a little umbrella. Today, we'll be visiting places where you'd be better off wearing a helmet, a bulletproof vest, and maybe even taking out life insurance. But don't worry, you won't need that insurance just to watch this video. So if the thought of weak mobile signal bothers you, or if a mosquito makes you queasy, this video might not be for you. Because today, we're diving into the top 10 most dangerous places in the world. Places where even a casual walk to the store can feel like an extreme obstacle course. These places have it all: crime, extreme weather, inhospitable nature, political instability, and sometimes everything at once. And for those who still think that traveling to unknown lands is all about swimming in tropical seas, be warned, reality might catch up with you very quickly, and literally. I have to admit, I'm not a fan of bad-mouthing places I haven't personally visited, so I rely on information from trusted sources. My rankings are based on crime statistics, weather reports, political stability, and local media, which highlight the daily challenges of these locations. Some of the sources include the Global Peace Index, which evaluates the safety of various countries, reports from the UN, and other international statistical agencies that monitor danger and risk factors in different regions. Now, I hope this video reaches people all over the globe, including those who actually live in these places. If you're one of the brave souls who call these dangerous spots home, I'd love to hear about your experiences. Drop a comment and tell us what everyday life is like in these adrenaline-filled zones. Meanwhile, the rest of us will be cheering you on, safely behind our screens. So, sit back, somewhere safe preferably, fasten your seatbelts and get ready, because we're about to embark on our journey to the most dangerous places on Earth. San Pedro Sula, Honduras. And now, adventurers, let me introduce you to a place that has earned a notorious reputation worldwide: San Pedro Sula, Honduras. This place, my friends, is a city where the word danger isn't just a concept, but an everyday reality. If you thought your neighborhood was a bit rough, you haven't seen San Pedro Sula yet. For years, San Pedro Sula has held a top spot on the list of the most dangerous cities in the world, primarily due to its extremely high rate of violent crime. This city has more murders per capita than many countries have in an entire year. To give you some perspective, in certain years, the murder rate here was over 169 per 100,000 people. For comparison, that's about 20 times higher than in many cities in the USA. So if you think it's dangerous to go out after sunset where you live, in San Pedro Sula, it's a whole different level of risk. Now you might be wondering, why is this place so dangerous? This is where we get to the heart of the problem: drug trafficking and organized crime. San Pedro Sula is a critical hub for the transportation of drugs from South America heading north to Mexico and the USA. This means there is constant fighting between drug cartels for control of the city, leading to frequent shootings, kidnappings, and murders. As if that weren't enough, San Pedro Sula also faces severe poverty and unemployment, which are additional factors contributing to the high level of violent crime. Young people with no opportunities for education or work often end up in gangs, further fueling the cycle of violence. While local authorities are trying to fight crime, every victory seems to be overshadowed by yet another wave of violence. According to statistics from the Global Peace Index and reports from the UN, Honduras, and specifically San Pedro Sula, has long been ranked as one of the places with the highest levels of violent crime in the world. International media frequently highlight the brutality of the gangs in this region and the constant threats faced by ordinary citizens. To give you a better picture, according to a study by the World Population Review, San Pedro Sula was considered the most dangerous city in the world for several consecutive years. And although the situation has slightly improved recently, it still ranks among the top dangerous cities. In local newspapers, instead of reading about the opening of new shops or cultural events, you're more likely to find headlines like, another armed conflict between gangs, or innocent bystander caught in crossfire. Now, imagine walking through the streets of San Pedro Sula. On one side you see beautiful mountains and tropical vegetation, but on the other, there are dark corners hiding the shadows of danger and crime. The people of this city must fight for their safety every day, even during such ordinary activities as going to the store or to work. This place is on our list for good reason, but I must say that San Pedro Sula is not just a symbol of violence. It's also home to millions of people who are fighting to survive every day, hoping that one day their city will be safer. And if you're one of those brave souls living here, hats off to your courage. Feel free to share your experiences with us in the comments. Caracas, Venezuela now. Buckle up, because we're heading to our next stop. Caracas, Venezuela. This city, while surrounded by stunning mountains and filled with rich culture, has a dark side that no tourist brochure will ever mention. Caracas is a place where the beauty of the landscape contrasts sharply with the harsh realities of life on the ground. For many years, this capital city has been ranked as one of the most dangerous places on earth, and not without reason. So, what makes Caracas such a dangerous destination? In a nutshell, it's the combination of violent crime, political instability, and economic collapse. In a city where the local currency has become practically worthless due to hyperinflation and food and basic goods are scarce, desperation is at an all-time high. And when people are desperate, crime rates soar. Caracas has one of the highest homicide rates in the world, with approximately 100 murders per 100,000 people in some years. Armed robberies, kidnappings, and assaults are common, and it's not unusual to hear about gang-related violence in the streets. For locals, this means that even a trip to the store can feel like walking a tightrope over a pit of dangers. The causes of violence in Caracas are deeply rooted in the country's economic and political struggles. For years, Venezuela has been in a downward spiral due to a mix of governmental mismanagement, corruption, and a collapsing oil-dependent economy. As the crisis deepened, law enforcement lost its grip on the city's streets, and criminal gangs started filling the power vacuum. Today, drug trafficking, organized crime, and petty theft are rampant. What makes the situation even more tragic is that it's not just the criminal gangs causing trouble. Caracas has seen an increasing number of protests and violent clashes between the government and opposition groups, with tear gas, riot police, and even live ammunition being used. For those brave enough to live through this, the phrase "living on the edge" has a whole new meaning. International organizations like the United Nations and Human Rights Watch have repeatedly raised concerns about the human rights abuses and the violence that seems to be part of everyday life in Caracas. According to the Global Peace Index, Venezuela consistently ranks among the least peaceful countries in the world, and Caracas plays a large role in that ranking. If you think it's safe to travel in broad daylight, think again. Residents and visitors are advised to avoid certain neighborhoods entirely, and to be extremely cautious even in more central areas. Carjackings, muggings, and assaults can happen at any time, and it's not uncommon for criminals to operate in broad daylight. For many, it's a city where trust is a rare commodity, and paranoia becomes a survival tool. So, if you ever thought about visiting Caracas to take in its beautiful views or experience its vibrant culture, you might want to think twice. This is a city where the term "watch your back" isn't just advice, it's a daily reality. But let's not forget, Caracas is also home to millions of people, many of whom are just trying to get by in an increasingly hostile environment. If you happen to be one of those brave residents, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell us what life in Caracas is really like, because while the world sees the danger, you live through it. Mogadishu, Somalia. Our next stop is in a different league altogether. Welcome to Mogadishu, the capital of Somalia, a place where chaos and danger have become part of daily life. It's not exactly a tourist hotspot, but for those who live here, it's a city where even an ordinary day can take an extreme and unpredictable turn. If you've ever been interrupted during a peaceful lunch in Mogadishu, you could be interrupted by almost anything, from a bomb explosion to an armed conflict. So, why is Mogadishu on this list? The reason is simple. decades of civil war, political instability, terrorism, and unchecked crime. Somalia is one of the poorest countries in the world, and when you add constant fighting between clans, militant groups, and the terrorist organization Al-Shabaab, Mogadishu turns into a battlefield where every day can bring a new threat. The militant group Al-Shabaab, linked to Al-Qaeda, is one of the biggest threats to the city. These armed militants regularly attack civilians, government buildings, and even international organizations. Their tactics include bombings, kidnappings, and shootouts, which means that safety in Mogadishu is merely an illusion. Many parts of the city are constantly under the threat of attack, making Mogadishu one of the most dangerous places on earth. Another major issue is political instability. Somalia's government is weak and often unable to effectively combat the armed groups that control large parts of the country. This political vacuum creates an opportunity for criminals who exploit the weak government to consolidate their power. Gangs and armed groups control entire neighborhoods, and residents must live in constant fear for their lives. If you find yourself in the wrong part of the city at the wrong time, your chances of returning home safely decrease dramatically. According to reports from the UN and Human Rights Watch, Somalia is one of the countries with the highest risk of violent death. Adding to this is extreme poverty, a lack of health care, and basic necessities, which deepens the crisis in Mogadishu. Shootouts between armed groups are common, and the local population lives in constant fear of what the next day will bring. On top of everything, Mogadishu is located in a region vulnerable to extreme natural conditions, such as drought and famine, which further complicate an already dire situation. When you add regular terrorist attacks to the mix, it becomes clear why Mogadishu is one of the most dangerous cities in the world. If you thought a regular day was boring, in Mogadishu, a normal day is almost a miracle. The people of this city face constant challenges that most of us can hardly imagine. If you're one of them or have ever been here, let us know what life is like in a place where danger is part of the daily routine. Ciudad Juarez, Mexico. Our next stop takes us to Ciudad Juarez, a Mexican city located right on the border with the United States. At first glance, you might think Ciudad Juarez is just another bustling industrial town, but the reality is much darker. The city is known as the epicenter of drug cartels and violence, and unfortunately, in many ways, this label is well-deserved. Life in Ciudad Juarez moves between everyday reality and the constant threat of violent conflicts. So what makes Ciudad Juarez so dangerous? The answer is simple: drug trafficking and the power struggle between cartels. Juarez is a key city on the drug smuggling route into the United States, making it a prime target for drug cartels fighting for control. These conflicts often lead to bloody shootouts right in the streets, where ordinary residents can easily find themselves caught in the crossfire of a war they aren't part of. In some years, the murder rate in Ciudad Juarez was as high as 130 murders per 100,000 inhabitants, making it one of the most dangerous cities in the world. Although the situation has slightly improved in recent years, the city still faces high levels of violent crime, including murder, kidnapping, and human trafficking. For locals, everyday life is a constant balancing act between hope and fear. You never know when or where something terrible might happen. The huge influence of drugs and illegal activities in Ciudad Juarez creates an atmosphere where law and order often take a backseat to the power of the cartels. The city's police force is either overwhelmed or, even worse, corrupt, which only perpetuates the endless cycle of violence. While authorities are trying to improve the situation, the cartels have deep roots and their influence reaches the highest levels of power. The local population also faces other dangers, such as kidnappings and extortion. Cartels stop at nothing to achieve their goals, which is why kidnapping wealthy residents for ransom has become a widespread practice in Ciudad Juarez. For many people here, it's not a matter of if something bad will happen, but when. International organizations like the UNODC, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, regularly highlight the situation in Ciudad Juarez as one of the worst when it comes to violent crime and drug trafficking. Although the city has been trying to change its reputation in recent years, the road to peace and safety is still very long. So, If you thought life on the border between the U.S. and Mexico was adventurous, the reality in Ciudad Juarez will quickly change that view. The daily challenges that local residents face are terrifying, especially because of the unpredictability of the violence, which can happen anywhere, anytime. If you live in Ciudad Juarez or have ever been there, we'd love to hear about your experiences in this dangerous city. Karachi, Pakistan. Our next stop takes us to one of the largest cities in the world, Karachi, Pakistan. This huge and bustling city, home to over 14 million people, is a major commercial and financial hub of the country. At first glance, Karachi may seem like a modern and dynamic city, but beneath the surface lies a darker side that ranks it among the most dangerous places in the world. Why is Karachi dangerous? The answer lies in the combination of political instability, terrorism, gangs, and ethnic conflicts. Karachi has become a place where various criminal and terrorist groups compete for control over parts of the city and the local population. In this city, you can face armed robberies, bombings, or even kidnappings, all during a regular day. One of the biggest threats to Karachi is terrorism. The city has frequently been the target of attacks by extremist groups, including the Taliban and other armed factions operating in Pakistan. Bombings, shootouts, and political assassinations are almost commonplace, meaning that even routine activities, like commuting to work, can be dangerous. According to reports from the UN and Human Rights Watch, Karachi is a high-risk area for violent incidents due to the combination of terrorist activities and criminal groups. Aside from terrorism, Karachi also has serious issues with criminal gangs. These gangs fight for control over various parts of the city, often leading to violent clashes and shootouts. In addition, kidnappings and extortion are common, with many residents being forced to pay protection money for their safety. The police are often ill-equipped or corrupt, further complicating the situation. As if that weren't enough, Karachi is also a hotbed of ethnic and political conflicts. The city is divided among different ethnic groups and political factions, which engage in bloody battles for power. These conflicts frequently result in mass protests and violent clashes, putting the lives of ordinary citizens at risk. Karachi is therefore a city where danger lurks around every corner. Whether it's terrorist attacks, criminal gangs, or political unrest, residents must fight for their safety every day. Despite all of this, Karachi is an important city with a rich history and culture, and millions of people live here, hoping that one day the situation will improve. If you thought big city life was exciting, Karachi will show you that it can also be dangerous. The people of this city face challenges that are unimaginable to many of us. If you have experience with Karachi, either as a resident or a visitor, share your story with us. We'd love to hear what life is like in this dangerous but fascinating city. Cape Town, South Africa. Our next stop takes us to the picturesque Cape Town, a city famous for its beautiful landscapes, the iconic Table Mountain, and stunning beaches. However, as you might guess, Cape Town also has a darker side that ranks it among the most dangerous cities in the world. While it is a popular tourist destination, many locals would tell you that safety here is not guaranteed. Why is Cape Town dangerous? The main problem is crime and gangs. The city, like much of South Africa, suffers from high rates of violent crimes, including murder, armed robbery, and assaults. Cape Town is also plagued by gang activity, with criminal organizations controlling entire sections of the city, especially in poorer neighborhoods and suburbs. These gangs often engage in violent shootouts, making some areas urban zones of constant danger. In certain neighborhoods like Mitchell's Plain or Khayelitsha, gang-related violence is a daily occurrence. Local residents are frequently victims of violent crimes, and the police are often overwhelmed or lack the resources to effectively combat the gangs. The murder rate in Cape Town is among the highest in the country, and South Africa has long been ranked as one of the most violent countries in the world. Another factor that increases risk in Cape Town is economic inequality. There are stark contrasts between wealthy and poor areas, which creates tension and contributes to the high crime rate. While tourist areas like the waterfront or Camps Bay are relatively safe, it's not uncommon for visitors to be warned to avoid certain parts of the city after dark. According to reports from the Global Peace Index and other international sources, Cape Town has long been considered one of the most dangerous cities in the world. The combination of high unemployment, poverty, and weak public services only adds fuel to the fire of ongoing violence and crime. Despite this, Cape Town remains a favorite destination for tourists from around the world. Its beautiful beaches, Table Mountain, and vibrant culture attract thousands of visitors every year. However, even tourists must be cautious and follow safety guidelines to avoid potential risks. Cape Town is a city of contrasts. On one side, stunning nature, and on the other, danger lurking in the shadows of the poorer neighborhoods. For those who live here, everyday life is full of challenges. If you've had experiences with Cape Town, whether as visitors or residents, share your stories with us. We'd love to hear what life is like in this fascinating but dangerous city. Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. Our next stop is in the capital city of Papua New Guinea, Port Moresby. You may have never heard of this city, but trust me when I say it's one of the most dangerous places in the world. Although it's located on a beautiful Pacific island, its natural beauty is in stark contrast to the high levels of crime, poverty, and violence that plague the city. Why is Port Moresby so dangerous? The main factors are extreme poverty, unemployment, and crime. This city is home to several criminal gangs known as rascals, who control large parts of the city and are regularly involved in violent crimes such as robberies, murders, and kidnappings. In Port Moresby, safety is a luxury that many cannot afford. According to local statistics, Port Moresby has one of the highest rates of violent crime in the world. The city's slums are overcrowded, and many residents live without access to basic services such as clean drinking water or health care. In this environment, crime and violence have become a normal part of everyday life. If you are not part of the local community, your chances of becoming a victim of crime are very high. Rascal gangs, which are highly active in the city, often organize armed robberies and attacks on shops, banks, and even government buildings. The situation is further complicated by corruption within the police force and a lack of resources to combat crime. Residents of Port Moresby often have to rely on themselves and their neighbors to protect their property and lives. Despite efforts by the government to improve the security situation, Port Moresby remains a place where danger is a part of everyday life. Economic inequality and political instability only worsen the situation. Tourists and visitors are advised to be extremely cautious, avoid certain parts of the city, and always travel with a guide or a local resident. Port Moresby is a sad example of a city where the beauty of nature meets the harsh reality of constant struggles for survival. The people of this city face challenges that are unimaginable to most of us. If you have experience with Port Moresby, whether as a resident or visitor, share your stories with us. We'd love to learn what life is like in this dangerous but unique city. Acapulco, Mexico. You might remember Acapulco as a famous tourist destination where Hollywood stars and wealthy visitors from all over the world once gathered to enjoy the sun, sand, and luxurious hotels. Unfortunately, today, Acapulco is better known for violent crime and drug cartel wars. While it still remains a tourist spot, the local population lives in constant fear for their safety. Why is Acapulco dangerous? The main reason is the turf wars between drug cartels fighting for control over drug trafficking and smuggling. Due to its coastal location and strategic importance, Acapulco has become a key hub for the drug trade. Cartels stop at nothing to gain control of the city, leading to frequent street shootouts, attacks on locals, and even murders. In some years, the murder rate in Acapulco was so high that the city ranked among the most dangerous places in the world. Crime affects not only locals, but also tourists, who are often targets for robberies and kidnappings. While hotels and tourist zones try to maintain an appearance of safety, the reality is that violent crime can happen anywhere, anytime. Another factor contributing to the danger in Acapulco is corruption within local authorities. Police officers and public officials are often involved in criminal activities or take bribes from cartels, further worsening the security situation. Many residents are afraid to report crimes or seek help from the police because they have little trust in being protected by the law. According to reports from the UN and the Mexican Institute of Statistics, Acapulco regularly ranks at the top of the list of Mexican cities with the highest murder rates. Tourists who still venture to Acapulco are advised to stay in safe areas and avoid the outskirts of the city at all costs. Acapulco, once a symbol of luxury and relaxation, has now become a place where fear and violence overshadow the beauty of its beaches. If you visited Acapulco or have experience with this city, we'd love to hear what life is like in a place where safety is a constant concern. Kabul, Afghanistan. Kabul, the capital city of Afghanistan, has long been considered one of the most dangerous places in the world. While the country has faced political instability, violent conflict, and terrorist attacks for decades, the situation in Kabul remains particularly complex. The city is frequently targeted by radical groups like the Taliban and ISIS. Why is Kabul dangerous? The primary reasons are terrorism, war, and violent crime. Although the Taliban took control of Afghanistan in 2021, terrorist attacks and armed conflicts continue. Kabul has witnessed numerous bombings and suicide attacks that target not only government buildings, but also civilian areas like markets and mosques. Residents of Kabul live in constant fear for their lives, as violent attacks can happen anywhere, at any time. According to reports from the UN and Human Rights Watch, Kabul ranks among the places with the highest risk of violent death worldwide. While security in some parts of the city has improved, many areas remain under the control of various militant groups, creating an unpredictable and dangerous environment. Another issue is economic instability and poverty, which exacerbate the security situation. Residents often lack access to basic services like healthcare and education, which contributes to the spread of crime and violence. Kabul is a tragic example of a city where war and violence overshadow everyday life. For those who live there, survival is a constant challenge. If you have any experiences with Kabul, whether as a resident or visitor, feel free to share your stories. St. Louis, Missouri. Since we've been talking about the most dangerous places around the world, I decided to include a city from the USA in the list, just to give it some context closer to home. At first glance, you might think that no city in the United States could compete with the likes of Tijuana or Caracas, but as a word of caution, it's worth mentioning some areas here as well. And that brings us to St. Louis, Missouri. I could list dangerous places all day, and no city in the U.S. would reach the levels of violence seen in certain global hotspots. However, St. Louis is still considered the most dangerous city in the United States in 2024. The homicide rate here stands at 60.59 per 100,000 inhabitants, making it the highest in the country. Why St. Louis? The issues plaguing this city are similar to those found in other dangerous places around the world: gang violence, drug trafficking, and high poverty levels. Many parts of St. Louis are riddled with crime, where shootings, violent assaults, and robberies are common occurrences. The situation is worsened by economic disparities, leading many young people to join gangs where violence is a part of everyday life. For residents, walking down the street can feel risky, especially at night or in areas with high crime rates. People living in St. Louis face a reality where shootings are frequent, and the police force struggles to manage the rise in crime effectively. While tourists are not typically the primary targets, and safe areas for sightseeing still exist, it's important to remain cautious and avoid dangerous neighborhoods, particularly after dark. If you live in this area, I would love to hear about your experience living in St. Louis. Does the reality of the city match the crime statistics, or is it just one side of the story? I'd be really interested in hearing your perspective. As we've explored throughout this discussion, many of the world's most dangerous places share common issues that fuel their high levels of crime: poverty, economic inequality, corruption, and drug-related violence. These factors create an environment where people are often driven to commit crimes as a means of survival or power. It's a tragic cycle, one that feeds on desperation and the absence of opportunity. But one can't help but wonder, what if those responsible for perpetuating these dangers, whether they are drug lords, corrupt officials, or violent gang members, paused for a moment to reflect on the harm they are causing? What if they considered whether this path of terror and destruction is truly worth it? Instead of violence and control, there could be another way, a path that brings safety, prosperity, and peace to the very communities they currently destabilize. Perhaps if the people behind these violent actions could see the long-term devastation they cause not just to their victims, but to their own communities, they might realize that there's more to gain from fostering growth and collaboration than from terror and division. True power could come from helping their cities rise out of poverty, from creating opportunities rather than destroying them. It's a difficult hope to hold on to, but in the end, change always starts with a single decision. Let's hope that someday, those responsible for creating these dangerous environments will choose a path of rebuilding, not tearing down. Because in the end, a life free of fear for everyone is a life worth living.